we move on to the third question, which states that in what state of matter is the substance between B and C? So in what state of matter is the substance between B and C? So here between B and C, as the liquid is cooling into a solid, what state of matter takes place here? So I have an example here, which is, so when you put the water in a refrigerator, as it is cooling from a liquid into a solid, so what state of matter happens here? So we have a liquid and a solid. As the water is cooling, we have a solid and a liquid inside here. So as the water is cooling from a liquid into a solid, it will change its state into ice. So here, as it was cooling, it started changing its state into ice. So here, it didn't actually change its state, but it started changing its state from a liquid into a solid. So as you can see here, we are having a liquid and a solid inside here. So the state of matter in this freezing point or solidification process, we are having a solid and a liquid. So here your answer will be solid and liquid. So in what state of matter is the substance between B and C here? As the water is cooling, it will become a solid and a liquid, or phase change. So the fourth question is, explain the reason why the thermometer reading remains constant between B and C. So as you measure the temperature between B and C here, as it is changing its state from a liquid into a solid, as you measure the temperature here, the temperature remains constant. But tell me the reason why it remains constant. So the reason is, the temperature stays constant because energy is released as the substance changes its state, latent heat or fusion, not changing temperature. So as the change takes place from a liquid to a solid, when you measure the temperature will stay constant because the liquid as it was cooling, it loses heat for the temperature to remain constant. Okay, so now we move on to the last question, which says that explain what happens during cooling in relation to the heat content of a substance. So what happens during cooling? When you put your liquid or water in the refrigerator, what happens during the cooling process? So during cooling, the substance loses heat at the phase change, which is BC here. So when the liquid is cooling, it changes its state. Yes. So as the liquid is cooling, it loses heat. So when you put water in the fridge, it will lose heat for it to change its state from a liquid to a solid. At the phase change BC here, heat is removed without lowering the temperature, latent heat. Then the temperature drops as the solid cools further. So as you are cooling your liquid into a solid, the heat is removed. The liquid will lose heat for it to change its state from a liquid into a solid. It will lose the heat for it to become a solid. And the temperature will drop as the solid cools further. As I already said, for the cooling curve, the temperature is dropping from a high temperature to a low temperature. It's coming down here. Okay? So the temperature here is being lowered, not raising, but being lowered for it to change its state from a liquid to a solid. Okay? That's all for today. This is where the question ends from.